And a very good Monday afternoon, as promised. We are now in the town of Andrews, speaking with Andrews Mayor Frank McClary, who is on the ballot again this year for the third time. He was on the ballot in 2015, 2019, and again, he will be on the ballot on November 7th. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor. How are you today?
Okay, Mr. Scott, doing well, and yourself?
I'm doing fine. Now, I do want to get into the issues about Andrews, of course, but today being what today is, September 11th, a lot of people are remembering where they were on this day in 2001. Tell us about that day for you.
Well, obviously, that was a very tough time for the United States. And me personally, I was serving then as a United States Army officer. I was a major at the time, and I was serving in Kosovo. And I remember it like it was yesterday. We was out on a mission on the border. Obviously, we were there for a peacekeeping mission. Long story short, as we were coming back, we heard over the radio that there was these aircraft that flew into the building. And just again, from my experience and understanding how things operate, we heard that second crash. We knew it was more than just an accident. And so, obviously, I had family in D.C., had friends in the Pentagon where I worked. In fact, one of the aircrafts that flew into the building was, in fact, into the side where I served in 2005. And so we lost some friends. And so that was and to this day, it is still very traumatic for many of us. 22 years later, we're still out there fighting. And we still have soldiers on the front line in Afghanistan and still in Iraq. Family members are still in Iraq, and so it's still tough. It doesn't get any easier.
Did that day play any role in your decision to want to run for office one day?
No, that was so long ago. That was in 01.
And you were in 15,
yeah. I was just a young major really getting started in my career as a field grade officer. And so, no, the politics were not on mine. I was still a soldier and still enjoying that. And, of course, 14 years later, that's when I retired. And I'm here.
Well, in 2015, you ran. You had three opponents that year, and won by almost a landslide, if I remember right. And then in 2019, you had one opponent, and Terrence Middleton, you won that election. You've got one opponent this year. How do you feel going into November 7th?
I still feel good about it. The mission here is not complete. And again, it's not really about the candidates. It's about what we can do for the town of Andrews. So we'll go at it. Again, as I said to you previously before we started here, the landscape has changed. So we take every election seriously, and we're going to put our best foot forward to ensure people understand what is actually going on as opposed to what the propaganda is out on the street. A lot of work has been done over the last 8 years by some great people, and hopefully today we'll be able to cover it. You see some of it around the room here. Just kind of highlight what's been going on, and again, we'll approach this election very seriously and don't take anything for granted.
Okay. I just had a thing pop on the screen, but I think we're still on. It looks like it.
Okay.
All right. So anyway, let's talk about some of the issues in Andrews. Like I said, I'd like to keep this to 30 minutes if we can. You want to talk about EMS first or the building first? I'll leave it up to you. Let's talk about the EMS. I mean, okay. EMS, what happened? Why did EMS get taken from the town, first of all, and moved to Big Dam Swamp?
Well, for months after it left in December, we had no clue why. And again, as you reported on that same issue, we were told that there was an operational concern and that the building was in poor repair, and it wasn't cost effective to change it. But again, none of that was communicated to us. So it was left, it was already gone for almost a month and a half before we learned. And so from that point, we began to make phone calls and emails that was not answered. And so again, as you know, over time, you see how it progressed until we got to the point where there was 1,000 signatures by the citizens, because it's not just me. The entire town was caught at a loss. And at this point, maybe about a month and a half ago, we finally got an answer from the administrator and Mr. Brandon that it was their decision. They have a much broader area to cover, but again, it still doesn't explain the need here, and the numbers show that ambulance should be here. And so,
but there's been several instances since the EMS was moved that the Big Dam Swamp EMS was not there. It was on another call, so an EMS ambulance had to come from Georgetown or somewhere else, which added many minutes to the response time.
That's right.
I mean, that in itself should say that it needs to be here.
Well, the evidence is there. The calls you talk to any citizen that has required this service, And it will tell you that it is absolutely neat here, from children to birth in the bathtub at the hotel, shortness of breath. It's just all kind of thing. And it's a busy little town. It's well traveled from tourists to, surrounding areas. So it's absolutely necessary to be here. And if it wasn't, it wouldn't have been here for the last 30 years. Mm-hmm. And so.
But you had the incident at the school last week. Thank God there was nothing happened. It was a bomb threat, and nothing was found. But let's just say it would have been an incident, mm-hmm. and a bunch of students got hurt for some reason. I mean, and what if that ambulance wouldn't have been at Big Dam? What if it would have been, the closest would have been in Georgetown? So you've mentioned that many times before about the schools you've got here, about the businesses that are here, and is it a personality conflict? Is that why it's not here?
I don't know, but I certainly don't deal in personality conflicts. Mm-hmm. But if you can look over time, not just since I've been here, but Andrews have been on the back burner for this county for a very long time. Now, when I got here, I started to expose those things, and I'm assuming that's where the personality conflicts come into play. But my job is to make sure that Andrews has what it needs. By trade, I am the one I defend, and protect the people that I'm in charge of, not unfairly. But I think that everyone would agree that an ambulance in this town is absolutely necessary.
Is there anything the state legislature can do to help bring it back?
I'm not sure, but I'm sure they've listened to the public expression of what's going on, and have not heard from anyone yet with regard to state stepping in. So it's just right now, a small town battling against county as it has been for many, many years.
But right now, you don't see any hope of it coming back right this second.
No, because again, the administrator made it clear to us that it was her decision. I thought that the council as a whole should have decided, but as we all know, they weren't involved in the beginning. So this thing was made at a level even below the administrator, and I guess at this point she's supporting that decision, and the ambulance won't be here, and the people are still not happy with it.
Well, but she's an employee of county council.
Yes.
County council is the bosses. Have you heard from Raymond Newton or Everett, Carolina, the two that, this is their district, about this issue?
I haven't heard a word from Raymond. Everett for a period of time come down, and he was all in agreement that this needed to be here. In fact, he saw the building when it was evacuated, in the building over at the rec center, and he agreed that we did not see any visible damage. And so, but again, he faded off and he stopped pursuing the issue. And again, it left us standing to defend for ourselves.
Now, the building right behind us, we're in Town Hall in Andrews, so right behind us is the new municipal building, police station. Okay, let me start at the beginning. The funding for this building was from the bond referendum that was held in 2014. Mm-hmm. You were elected in 2015.
16.
I'm sorry.
16 and 7, yeah, 16. 15 was the election.
Right, and you took office in 16. Right. So you were not even mayor when the planning went into, what was going to be on the bond referendum.
That's right.
You didn't have any say-so in it, the bond referendum at all, right? Because you weren't mayor. Mm-hmm. So once you were elected, you saw the plans that, what was going to be built. Did you do anything to alter the plans?
No. In fact, there were no plans.
Oh, okay.
That was one of the misconceptions.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, fill us in.
What governs the sales tax and guidelines is the ordinance and the actual state regulation. So it was just that 8-page, I think it's about an 8-page ordinance that after all of we went through the process for voting on these things, and they identified the 5 projects. They did the estimate of what it was called. There was no requirement to do any analysis. That's the same thing for all the projects. We're going in with this, and they prioritized it. 1 through 5. Andrews was number 3. And the guidelines in the ordinance, again, the Georgetown County ordinance, signed by the county council, says that these are the 5 projects. They will be funded in priority. One being, I think, was the Merle's Inlet dredging, Georgetown dredging, and the Andrews. And it also gave them the flexibility to do multiple projects simultaneously, anticipating they were going to get the funds. So there was no requirement, so there was no plans. But the guidance on the inside of the ordinance says that regardless of what it costs, whether it's for preparation, if you have to purchase land to build these things, whatever cost is in there that clearly says that this money have to go to it. even if you had to keep, if your estimate is short and there's an overrun, you come into it. So
that's what I was
how
going to ask. Was there a specific dollar amount placed on this building?
No, and not on the projects. All the projects were estimates. And
Estimates.
That is the language, the precise language.
And
in
when
the
the
ordinance.
and when the voters went to the polls in 2014, it didn't say what Andrews is going to get is a police and fire station. Period.
Right. No,
It didn't say that.
And that's what this is. And I think that's the other misconception. So
Right,
you
but-
look at this building.
Right.
Okay, this building housed the police and the fire station.
Mm-hmm.
30 years ago, or 28 years ago, there was some agreement to move the fire station out into an old asbestos-filled building behind us, which then moved the county's ambulance on the inside. But the police department remained here. So those guys, they only could operate out of those 3 bays that, which was nothing, really wasn't conducive for good operation. It just could house the equipment. So what we've done is took that same footprint. In fact, the way this thing is laid out is very conservative because what they're calling a courtroom is a multi-purpose room. That room is for the training that for the police department or the fire department can use,
The same way Georgetown City now uses their courtroom as a city council room,
Yes.
and so
And
theirs is a multi-purpose room too, right now.
It's not a conference room for the mayor or anyone else. It's a multi-purpose room, and that's all in these days and age. 21st century, you're not going to get locked in. So then that saved us from having to build a training room for the police department and one for the fire department. And the other misconception is that, okay.
Yeah.
The other misconception is that this, the mayor has some large building, some large office. Well, message to the world, Frank McClary is not going to be the mayor forever. I will stay here until God says move, but the thing of my point is that that is for the town. That is the people's building, that office space. And what's important about this is that the mayor in a strong mayor form of government is the supervisor for the chief of police, the fire chief, and the public works. So the mayor is that position and his assistant, and the HR person is a part of the organization for each of them. So if you look at the police department, fire department, they do not have an HR. It is these 3 people are the HR. In addition to that, Senator Sapp, thank God for him, he gave the town of Andrews $150,000 to apply to this for any additional costs that may affect someone that's not a police officer or a fire department. So $150,000 that was applied to this. Now what the county missed, and you look at this sheet, I'll give this to you as well, they funded the construction, $3 million. That's for the construction of the building. What they didn't fund, which is clearly outlined in the ordinance, is any preparation. Preparation talks about the hazardous mitigation. So that building had to leave. That was about $700,000 for the mitigation and the destruction and removal of those things. They did not charge for the management of that. So they did not apply any of the funds for the preparation, which clearly, outlines that in the ordinance. So the construction dollars are there, but you can't build it until you prep the ground.
So how much more does the town need from Georgetown County to get that building open?
Well, at the time when they stopped it, it was $2.7 million. Now, 2 years later, the cost of doing business and the restart and all those things, and now you're talking attorney fees, which what we asked for in the lawsuit, all that has to be applied now. So they're running this cost up.
So one thing I've heard people say is if this building is not complete soon, it's going to get to the point that you may have to tear down what you've done.
No, that's not true.
That's not true.
No.
Okay.
No, because they don't have any it just have the wiring, no sheet rocks and those things, and none of that stuff is up there. We check it periodically. There's no mobile in the place. Now, of course, I'm ready for it to get done as soon as possible, but there's no. That's nonsense.
So one thing I asked Mr. Baber when we were talking to him, and that's his opponent. I don't even think we mentioned him, Dean Baber, the pastor of Andrews First Pentecostal Church.
Yes.
I just wanted to mention it because I didn't mention it at the beginning. But when we were talking to him last week, wouldn't it be right or for the county to go and say, okay, we've got to finish this building because it has to be finished. It can't just sit there forever. Because at some point you would have to start tearing it down. I mean, it would get to the point you would have to. And then once it's finished, if the county feels like Andrews overcharged us or whatever, then work it out then. sue the town then, or whatever you have to do to get the money that if you feel like you've been wronged as a county, but get the building finished. Is that a solution?
Well, suing, anybody can sue. That would
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying.
But yes, to your point, and there was plenty of money left to do that. And I'll say that. I'll say this now because $7 million, they gave each council member $7 million. $100 $1 million each to go out and do their fund project. That $7 million could have been applied here. So and you see what came out of that. Tennis courts,
Yeah.
those kind of things. A multimodal trail for $2 million up there in Waccamaw. Doesn't make sense. Now you mentioned that this building would have to be tore down at some point in time. Well, this building here has been standing for over 100+ years.
Yeah, but it's prepared for the elements.
No, it's not.
Oh, it's
That's what I'm
not.
telling you. No, this building there's an environmental report that shows that these folks for many years have been working in a hazardous building. So if we were about people, they would have applied that money there. Not leave these folks into this building. Again, long before Frank McClary got here, this place is a hazard, and it is not conducive for anyone to work here, to include the people who come and pay their bills. There was a chunk of iron that fell maybe 3 years ago from the ceiling right where you would be paying your bill. Now imagine someone saying that, I don't care whether it's an older person or a kid, that would have caused it. This is what's happening. This building has been struck several times by lightning. So it is not, that building will stand much longer than this building has been here for.
Even like it is right now, with the
Absolutely.
rain getting inside.
It's not getting inside because one of the things we did is we saw us getting to this point of having to file a lawsuit. We made sure that the roof was up and prepared, and the runoff, for the rain gutters, those things are all in place. So there's water's not getting in the building. So it's prepared for right now. But
Yeah.
my point is, I don't want it standing there for.
Well, that's I guess what I'm saying. Even if the building is fine for years, like it is, I mean, just for
Common
the
sense.
principle of the thing, just
Absolutely.
finish it. The county's got the money. The town, can Andrews pay to finish that right now?
We can if we wanted to go get in debt, but it's not a responsibility because it is the taxpayers' dollars. This is the thing. This money didn't come from Andrews' budget, Polly's Island. It came through 1 cent sales tax. Now, if we want to talk about this study, it showed that Andrews, $4.5 million of Andrews' dollars go elsewhere for food and beverages. So when we start talking about things that contributed to the collection of this $41 million, Andrews done its fair share. If you want to talk about Andrews, who had given all of their hospitality taxes to the county
Yeah, good.
for the last 22 years, that would have paid for it. So we have given until these folks here can't give anymore. And because, again, this now is being exposed, I'm the bad guy.
The same thing I asked you about the EMS. Is this a personality conflict?
I think one can draw that conclusion, but I choose not to make it personal, and that's why I go by these regulations. I go by the documents they printed, so then when we go to court or wherever, if we have just a simple conversation, we can refer back to what's in writing.
But Mr. Baber says if he's elected, it'll happen. It'll be finished.
I saw that, and my mind went different places with that, and so the question would be for a reasonable person, are they holding that money? Is it a personality conflict? Is it about Frank McClary, and are you holding this money making this town suffer because they have a personal conflict? It should never enter into a fray.
And the same thing I asked you about EMS. Have you heard from Raymond Newton or Everett, Carolina about the building?
No. We met once when they first came on board, and Mr. Newton, Councilman Newton, made it clear that he's going to support the position that was ongoing before he got into that chair. And so to me, I don't think they're ready, or not. They're probably ready, but it is a standoff for some ungodly reason that doesn't make any sense. So because I think if you're going to take $3 million of that same money and give it to the technical colleges, you're going to give the $7 million to council members, and you're going to give Public Works $1 million and the Parks and Recs $1 million. What about the lives and the safety and the work conditions for the people here in Andrews? Are we not important?
Have you received the $3 million yet?
Yes.
Okay, so you've got that in the bank.
The $3 million and the $150,000 that Senator Sabb gave us is already applied to this.
Okay, so the county has spent $3 million, and then there's $150 that you got. So if this building is not finished, then that $3 million is just wasted.
Well, it won't be because we will
Well, I mean,
continue. Well, yes.
Yeah, if it's not finished, So why
I will
not
tell you
spend,
this.
if you're the county, why not spend the rest of the money?
I-
Finish it and then work out the money deal later.
That's a good question for them, Scott. I hope you asked them that.
I mean, it just seems like it would be the smart thing to do. I
It
don't
is.
know.
It's not just a smart thing, but it's the human thing to do. That's where we are. And if we can all operate on that level as for the people, we wouldn't have any problems.
Well, let me ask you about another issue you have to deal with. That you, not only you, but any mayor of any historic town or old town in the world, I think, and that's pipes. And that a lot of your pipes underground, were put in when? In the early 1900s? Or what are we talking about?
Probably in 50s, 60s.
50s,
I'm
60s.
not so
But
sure.
a lot of them are clay and things like that.
Yes.
And just like in Georgetown, just like in Charleston, they bust, they leak. It's not your fault, but what can you as mayor do in the next 4 years to try to solve that problem?
Well, it's not my fault. It's my responsibility, and I take that very seriously. And what I can do is the same thing we've been doing. We have been placing, again, people understand this is 25 miles of water and sewer, so 50 miles of pipes. Not every foot of it is bad, but enough of it that causes what we have right here. When I got here, Andrews had 2 consent orders, one for water and one for sewer from DHEC. We have satisfied the requirement to get our water in compliance. The sewer we have been working on, and what they don't understand is that there's multiple elements to this system. We have leveraged all of the dollars we can get from the state, and we continue to do that. Now the grant cycles come in cycles. To date, we have acquired over $18 million in grants that has gone into the system. Now, $10 million of that right now is still waiting to be contracted. So that's the money we got through the SCIP grant and others. So for someone to say, it's not happening, $18 million. I saw the comment about getting grants. We get grants all the time. In fact, we just got another grant from Duke Energy for $6,500 for a streetscape.
So the rumor that the town is on some kind of grant probation?
No,
That's not true.
I also say this.
Also, you're on grant probation for 3 years for some.
That is a flat.
Okay.
It can't be, Scott. It was in the paper. People read it. We got $7 million from the SCIP from the state. That's just the most recent.
Are there any grant places that you're on probation from at all?
No,
Okay.
Andrews have not since I've been here. Now I don't know what has happened in the past. You can talk to some of the old council members, but here it is. And again, I'll be happy to share this. This is all of the grants, dates, and what those monies were applied.
So
to.
what's the most recent grant you've received? What year?
Most recent again? I have.
Is it 2023 or 22?
We've received several this year.
Okay,
$7 million, and we just got the $6,500. You see the work that's going on Beach Avenue. See that folder right here?
Yeah.
All right, so those are grants over the years, and I mean not just over the years. You take a look at it.
Yeah. You talking about this one?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll hold it up over here. This is what he's talking
Yes.
about here.
And then you go on down. We've been receiving grants for probably before I got here. So when Ms. Wilson was here, they got the first grant that replaced the lift stations. So no, we have never been on any grant probation. We don't owe anyone any money. I print this for your viewing pleasure as well. This is for the last 8 years. This is my quick reference sheet that shows all of the money we have in the bank, and of course we give the council and anybody else who wants a copy of the full bank statement every month. But no, we're not in debt. If we were in debt, we could not have paid the $490,000 to cover those invoices for that building until this lawsuit. And we still right now have over almost $1 million in our bank account.
So just wrapping that part up, in the next 4 years, if you're reelected, what can you do to help with the pipe situation?
We will continue the effort to get grants. Right now, we have three critical areas. That's South Morgan, from Main Street down to Alder. We have Magnolia, which we already have grants for both of those. And we are now, as of this week, replacing the damage that occurred at the CSX. Those are the trouble areas. Everything else is about the maintenance and maintaining and keeping the manholes clean, just like any other city. So those are the critical areas. That will take care of what's happening up here, what occurred in January of this year. So no, we've never been on probation.
And you had a situation that it probably happens everywhere, but I don't know. I just heard about it here, and that's with some restaurants. They pour their grease down the drain, and then it clogs it. And you even had like a class or something recently to try to help people understand why you don't pour oil or grease down the drain.
Yeah, and a part of this is all of this. Everything we're talking about now is about education, getting to know how your governance form, how it operates, and I think it will bring the temperature down some. But yes, every opportunity we get, we want to train and teach and educate. That particular case was to address all of the businesses that utilizes grease, because everyone thinks that, well, I don't pour grease. Yes, you do, because it will come off the pans that you clean, and it go in there and it will clog it. And most of the businesses are directly connected to the manhole, so
Right.
it's very simple. So we brought in an expert, talked to them. Those who showed up, we'll do another class. The same thing for our residents. We cannot pour grease down there because it clogs the system. It's that simple.
Yeah, I'm on a septic tank, so I know what you mean. When it happens, you got to pay $300 to get it fixed.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, taxpayers don't fix ours. Anyway, let me ask you about the water bills. That's been a big issue in the past year. What happened? Why were the water bills, going months without being sent out? What was the story there?
The water bill is a part of the water system, the billing or the collection process. So we only talk pipes and those kind of things. But the meters, the people that get out and read them, the wands, all of that is a part of the system. We can visibly see where there are leaks in the pipe. What we didn't see is then the lack of training or the dedicated person who's reading actually doing the reading. And I tell people this all the time. When I first got here, we had almost $500,000 in uncollected water bills, and that's from businesses. You would look inside of the system, you would see what people that were exempt from paying any penalties. So we fixed all that, and again, cleanup is messy. So then, as years went on, then the meter process broke down, and so that's what it took us some time, because we're talking about over 1,600 meters. Each one of them could have a very different problem. So we had to go through every one of those things. First of all, train new people to read them. The process, we brought in all of the experts for the meters, the wands, and the system our billing system that we use. So everyone was involved in the process, because we're not the only ones that, the only customers that these folks have. And so then, it's like you just talked about, training folks on the challenges with the grease. We have to train our personnel, and I am confident that the people we have now understand and are committed to getting this right. So
during our interview with Mr. Baber, he said you should have asked the county to step in and help with meter readers or whatever needed to happen.
Like the county help with the ambulance? Is that the county help with the building back here? Listen, I heard part of that thing, and it talked about which is an insult to me as a leader who spent 38 years in the government, to say I don't understand, or suggest that I don't understand how to play well with others. I do that to the point to where you now ignoring the answers, and then we're going to have to take this to another level. So, to your question, Georgetown have their own challenges. This system, if we don't know, if the people we have on the ground don't understand the system, how in the world, it's not the same system that they have. It's very different. That's easy to say because it's a great, punchline, but that's not how it works. We've leveraged when we didn't have a trash truck, we went to Georgetown, and Mayor Barber at that time was kind enough to share. We got a new trash truck. We didn't need it anymore. So we worked well with others that apply common sense and want to be a part of the system or the solution. But in this case, we had to train our people. They would not have helped, and it still would have cost us. But it wouldn't have helped because they don't know the system.
Now, I know this happened way before you were mayor, but the agreement between the town of Andrews and the city of Georgetown, to where your water, I guess it's your wastewater, goes to Georgetown to their water treatment plant. If you were mayor, before that was agreed upon, would you have ever agreed to do something like that?
No, I would not. Well, because again, I've been at 22 years old. I was making decisions on people's lives, their livelihood, and taking them to combat. So I had to train. So had I been here, one thing, now we probably would not have been able to avoid getting some assistance, because once you got your waste on the ground, you're going to have to do something about it. But I would not have entered into an agreement that locked this town in for 40 years of paying $1 million plus to the county and the city. Because as technology evolves, there's other solutions. So it should have been something, but immediately, and I don't want to necessarily question the judgment of the people back then, because I wasn't here. But I will say to you, I understand contracting. That's a large part of my military career is contracting. I would not have entered into a contract that says I'm committed to you for years, because that $1 million, imagine us having that $1 million for the last 23 years, and how we could have advance this town much further.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have happened. I could say that for certain. But again, I don't want to necessarily question the gentleman or the other, but I will question the fact that it was almost a lifelong commitment.
Yeah.
That we're going to have to fight, legally again if we want to get that back. Part of our process and getting envisioning, we're going to get another system here. That's one thing. The other part is now getting them to release the agreement that we have, that we locked into. So there's hope.
And got about 4 minutes left. So I'm trying to
Yeah,
squeeze it. Yeah, but I got to be fair. I did 30 minutes. So I need to keep it about the same. Let me ask about a rumor mill. Ask about that a little bit. 'Cause I don't know if this is true or false. It's a rumor mill. You do not live in the town limits. Okay, I'm just.
Well, I'll tell you, for those people, tell them to go to the county assessors, and they'll see one. Well, I won't put my address on it, but I live across the street from the town hall. I purchased that building, that home in 2016.
Right, but is that where you live at night?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just. Don't shoot the messenger.
No,
I'm just
I
asking.
wouldn't stop.
Yeah.
I've heard the fact that
Okay.
one of my siblings was approached and asked, "Well, if the mayor loses the race, is he going to give up his house?" That is not the townhouse just because J.C. Elliott lived in it. Frank McClary paid cash for that building, for that house. It's paid for. And all they got to do is check. Now, they should have asked that question when Austin Beer was here.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Well, that might be why it's coming up because
Well,
what happened to him.
I just don't invite everybody to my house, but that's where I live.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I didn't know it was wrong. Haven't heard that.
No,
before.
it's, yeah.
That's a good one. See, but you see how this misinformation gets out here, and then it causes people to think differently about their leaders, and that's not. I'd be happy to talk to anybody. They want to see my bill of sale and all that.
No,
stuff.
right, yeah.
They can come on.
All right. So, of course, the common question you always have to ask is your best accomplishments during the past 4 years. What are you most proud of for the past 4 years? Or you can go back, since you've been mayor, but especially the last 4 years.
Last 4 years?
Yeah.
we've
if you
done
want to
it.
talk about the whole mayorship, it doesn't matter. I mean,
I just think our ability to work with other agencies to look for opportunities. You see all this thing behind me. We now have a visioning plan that will address the streetscape, that will now create, you see this over here, this is an education center that will be built over here on 187 acres that the town owns, that will generate revenue, that will create a learning center that the schools can use. You see over here our branding. This will be our new branding. We have charts here that shows that for the Main Street projects, all of these things are in place, but it couldn't happen until we got through so I'm very happy the fact that we went from $13,000 to almost $1 million in the bank after bills are paid. We don't owe anybody anything other than our normal bills. Again, we talked about what we owe Georgetown as service our water and sewer. And it's not just me. It is the people that are in here that are working hard, that are criticized and beaten upon the head. But they're doing a fantastic job. So it's not Frank McClary, it's the team. I happen to be a leader, and the thing is, and that's where they're going to see me all the time. It's like any other head of the organization, but it's a lot of work going on behind the scene. That's what I'm proud of. We're able to create jobs for our people here. We have over 25 businesses that are here. I heard someone say that we don't have businesses. We have 25 businesses that came here, and I have a chart I'll share with you that is now, this town is moving, and there's going to be an announcement soon that there's another large business coming in. So we're doing well. That's what I'm proud of. I'm proud of my people, and I'm just here to facilitate things.
I don't know if it's even possible, but is there any way for Andrews to annex the industrial park that's right outside of Andrews? Because, I mean, I know it's called the Andrews Industrial Park, but you don't get any revenue from it because it's out of the town.
That was I don't know if that was deliberate, but of course our revenue is generated through water and sewer and property taxes. Mm-hmm. So if the county was really going to be helpful to us back when they decided to do this, they would have given us the water accounts, because our water lines runs out over a mile to Sid Harvey's place, which encompasses that industrial complex. But someone made the decision, and of course, and then MPW is the fourth largest water user in the county. That would have replaced what Oneida has done. Mm-hmm. And speaking of Oneida, the question you asked about Oneida and coming back, Oneida is been in operation since the last 5 years. Not as Oneida, but there's two companies that operate there. A cabinet company, and you can drive by there.
Right.
One that builds storage sheds.
Right, but it didn't have the jobs that Oneida had.
Well, you won't get that in Andrews.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, but that's not any local government's fault.
No, it's
I
not.
mean, that was federal things and, NAFTA and whatever. But do you ever see a day that we'll have industry in Georgetown County and Andrews like that again?
I think the county I think they're doing a good job of bringing companies. I mean, you can see the companies popping up over there. I think they're doing that. And again, other than us probably getting 1 or 2 people to work there, I mean, it's not doing us any good.
Yeah, the problem is, I mean, you build these new plants, whatever, and AI is taking the jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, robots are doing people's jobs, and so even if you were to build a brand new 35,000 foot facility, how many people would it employ because of AI?
It's a challenge everywhere you go, and that's any employer would tell you that, not just Andrews or Georgetown.
Yeah, no, that's the worldwide
personnel.
Yeah.
Same thing in the police department. In fact, for the record, we have trained and get 10 officers certified since I've been here. You know where they are now? They work for Georgetown County and the sheriff department in Georgetown City. You just can't compete. And in all fairness, a lot of the sheriff guys go to other places that pay higher. So it is a revolving door, and it's something that, like now, Chief Cocker was doing a very good job of training local folks, finding those that are interested. We got a young man that's in class now, and so that's building. Yeah, it's going to come. It's just not something we can fix at this level. We can't fix the drug problems here. We can't fix a lot of those homeless, but we're working on the homeless piece of that.
Because of you brought up the police department, and I'm over time now, but over the course of your tenure as mayor, you've lost several police chiefs. A lot of it's pay, a lot of it maybe for other reasons. So there was a time that there was some, scuttlebutt, people talking about maybe Andrews should just give their police department money to the county and just let the sheriff's department, protect Andrews and not have a police department. When people say that, what do you think?
I would say that's, we're not at that point, and we shouldn't be. And I would tell you this, the most crimes that are happening in Andrews is coming from areas outside of Andrews, which I'm talking about a block over. Andrews is 2.2 square miles. Italy is Georgetown County. That's the sheriff department's area. We talk about the north side, that's on the other side of where the elementary school. That is the sheriff's department area. So a lot of this thing bleeds over. Now, we got our pockets of challenges here inside, but if we work together like we all should and just erase these jurisdictions in terms of for protection, we wouldn't have a problem. No, we're not at that point. Chief Cockrell and Major Chandler are doing a great job to pull us back together. I thank the sheriff for the support that they're giving to the town now, but when you start talking about $600,000 budget versus a $16 million budget that the sheriff department has, there's no comparison. Now, both the chief and the sheriff are working together. I think that relationship is starting to, develop, and that's what it's going to take. Not just those two gentlemen, but we also have to have a relationship with Sheriff Gardner from Williamsburg County, because a lot of the challenges come from the Williamsburg County side. And so Andrews just sits. It's a double-edged sword where we are. We sit in a sweet spot where that, we're not too far from Myrtle Beach or Charleston, and we got tourists coming through. So that means that we can generate. We get, when people come together, we can generate a lot of needs that these folks will need as we come through. The Black River Park is going to drive a lot of the high demands for lodging, food, and all that good stuff. But again, we need the law enforcement. That's a unique organization to work together to make this a safer place. We're going to get strong, and when we get to our capacity, which is 10 officers or 9 officers, it's still not going to be enough because we can't go into those other areas to police.
All right, two more questions.
Yes.
I'm not being fair because I've gone over the bypass, Andrews bypass. I've heard rumors, or maybe not rumors, but speculation that you don't think it was a good idea to put a bypass over, that it takes away people coming through the town that may have stopped it.
Well, I think that's I don't. Now, I wasn't here, and again, to understand what was the decision, but just for physically and understanding commerce, and when people pass through, they will see opportunities to stop here. If that bypass is extended to 3 miles out, like it's planned to right now, that's going to take all of the traffic around Andrews.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a lot of people think that's going to happen to the city of Georgetown with the new Brick Chimney Road being paved.
Exactly. And the other part of that too, you ask the folks that were here long before Frank McClary came back home, they will tell you in their opinion that that bypass is the reason for a lot of the flooding that's happening on the south side. There's some very expensive homes down there, and it floods out, and a lot of the folks down there believe that. I don't know that to be true, but when we start talking about the speculation, those kind of things, everyone can draw a conclusion.
This was, I can't remember if I was doing news when the thing was built, but it seemed like I remember one of the reasons they said they were building it is so people can get around the train. You know,
Yeah,
I don't know if that's true or not. I can't
Now, if you go out, you can get around the train. You'll have to go out, I think, a mile out,
Yeah.
the bypass, and go another mile to get on. That's very helpful because we have 7 crossing that block. That again gets back to the EMS why it shouldn't be outside of the city, because it could be interrupted by a long train, which I was yesterday. So if it stays the way it is, I think we'll be fine because it doesn't have that that 3 mile extension along 521. We'll work with it. But what I tell the people is to advertise beyond that point, and we'll still get them in.
All right. Last question. Why should people vote for Frank McClary for another term on November 7th?
Because Frank McClary cares about this town. I came here, I call it a divine intervention. No one had to talk to me but God when I was in the Middle East in 2015. And it was no question that my mission, my next job was to come to Andrews and help get it back on track. So all those 30 years of experience, or 29 years of experience, I'm having to apply here. The job is not done yet. If we change in the course, like I said, we got $18 million or $10 million now we have to apply. We've been getting this money the whole time. We have it now where we understand the system. To change in the middle of that will be detrimental to this town. This town will fall off. And if you can't, and again, if you lose your water and sewer, you're going to lose your revenue. That means your employees are gone, these families are going to be hurt. No one knows this system better than I do because everyone has now retired. I'm the only one that's been here 8 years that are out here physically. That's the only way we were able to get off of the consent order with DHEC. That's the only way we're going to be able to keep DHEC off of us until we get this sewer part fixed. It is not time for that. If people are running or concerned about relationships, they need to question the people who are encouraging them. Those are the same people that are not doing anything for Andrews. Those are the same people who were part of Andrews' downfall more than 40 years ago. Check the messenger. This administration needs to stay intact. We need other people to come on to help. You know, Mayor Pro Tem Eddie Lee, this guy knows the infrastructure around here better than anybody because he's a council member that got on the ground, find where he can help as opposed to interfering with the day-to-day operation. By law, that is the mayor and the staff's responsibility, not the councilman. Council members have 2 roles. That is to vote on the budget that is presented to them, and that is to vote on laws. And they can be the watchdog for how the money is spent. That's their role. Everything else is laid out and settled when that budget is set. We just execute the budget. So this whole idea about McClary creating his own, that is not the case. We operate within the guidelines. If the military taught me something, it's discipline. Follow the guidelines because at the end of the day, if there's any question, we can all come back to what's in writing. And you see all this stuff laid out here? That's why I keep it because I know in government, people are going to question you. That's why I document everything I do, and I do that for the good of the town, not for me. I'm retired. I'm doing well. God has blessed me. I don't need a penny from Andrews, but I need people to do their part to bring our town up, and we need to come together.
And I do have 2 quick questions,
I'm
just because they popped in my head and they have been a topic. Number one, is the town planning to get another website?
Yes, that is in the making. That should be launched probably in another 30 days. But again, it's one of those things wasn't top priority, but we got that. That's coming.
And number 2, live streaming your town council meetings. Why did you stop, and are you going to bring it back?
We stopped because, again, even when we did it for the 2 years, our max, it's a challenge because where we have to do our council meeting and the connectivity and all that business, because we were doing it from here. So we're all about, everything revolves around this little building. It's more of a challenge for the connectivity over there in the magistrate's office.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with it. I thought it was good, but again, the participation, if you go back and look at all the recordings that are still out there, I think we probably maxed out at maybe 10 people at one time. I encourage people to get involved because it will help them understand when someone comes to them with false information or misinformed information, it's right there. And if they want to see it, I'd be happy to sit down with them and show them, because that's where the transparency comes in at. They have nothing to hide. We have nothing to hide here. Our finances intact, so we're just trying to make the town better. I personally, I could be doing something, over, but again, I didn't come here because of my desires. God sent me here, and this is where I'm going to be until he says move to something else.
Well, very good. And once again, on this September 11th, thank you for your military services too, because, yeah.
And I want to thank all of those firemen, police department, police folks and all that were involved in that, still doing that tough work today, and for our soldiers that are still out there on the front line. That's why I wear this, because it represents those that are still out there. Those are guys still fighting a good fight. And so we thank God for everything, and I appreciate this interview. I'll be available any other time, but we have to tell the Andrew story, and people got to come together.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.